As we all know how people may feel about mathematics as a subject, one thing I'm going to tell you is it's not like the subject is difficult or not, because we get to see students who approach a chapter in mathematics, learn the chapter, understand the chapter, and then move to the next chapter. When we get to the next chapter, we tend to forget about the previous chapter. We're going to learn new things on the previous chapter, learn how to answer the question based on the rules that are applied on the chapter that we are on, and then we forget about any other chapter that exists until we get those type of questions whereby in one question, you are expected to apply the knowledge of 2 or 3 chapters that we have learned in the past at once in order to reach your answer. Looking at the question that I presented today, most students said they would rather skip this question in an exam because it looked a bit complicated for them. But let's look at the question and analyze it together. Here, we are given f of x is equals to x squared, and we are required to determine the minimum distance between the point 10 and 2 and a point on f. So between the given graph or the given curve of f of x is equals to x squared, there lies a point somewhere further away whereby the point is 10 and 2, and then we have to find the minimum distance between the two. There are some certain keywords whereby if you hear someone say you must determine the minimum or the maximum value of anything, in most cases you know that somewhere you're going to have to differentiate. But then when you differentiate, how do you then get the formula to differentiate? Here, you are required to get the distance between 2 points. I feel like everyone knows the distance formula by now. We know the distance formula. Let me show you what the distance formula looks like. So, between 2 points, x1 and y1, as well as x2 and y2, we say that the distance between the 2 points would be d is equals to square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. This is your distance formula. But then what else do you need? You need to understand the distance that they are talking about. So now we have our function f of x is equals to x squared. If I was to show how this would look like, it would be something of this form. I know that this is the function f of x is equals to x squared. So the function f of x is equals to x squared looks something like this. Now I have a point which is 10 and 2, meaning the value of x is 10 and the value of y is 2. Suppose I put the point somewhere here. Let me move it here. Suppose I put the point here. There goes my point 10 and 2. And this point is at a distance with a point x and y that is on this. So there is my distance. This point here is x and y, right? Since this point is x and y, it means I say this point is x and f of x. Do you see that? This point I'm talking about is x and f of x. However, I need to get the distance between the 2 points, the minimum distance between the 2 points, and I have a distance formula, which is like that. But in order to use this formula, I have x value, I have x value, I have y value, I have y value. However, my y value is f of x. I know that f of x is equals to x squared. F of x is equals to x squared, such that my point is as good as me saying it is x and x squared, because f of x is exactly as x squared. So the point that is on the graph, I can represent it as x and x squared, and the point that is further away, it's 10 and 2. And now I need to find the minimum distance, and I have my distance formula. Now what do? I substitute my 2 points on my distance formula such that the distance between the 2 points is going to be x minus 10 squared, x minus 10 squared plus x squared minus 2 plus x squared minus 2. And then I simplify what I have inside there. That would be x squared minus 20x plus 100 plus x to the exponent 4 minus 4x squared plus 4. If you don't understand what I did to move from here to here, you can just give yourself time and simplify what you have inside there and see if you're going to get the same values as this. But somehow I believe it would be the same. And then it goes further and say, to simplify this further, we have x to the exponent 4. I have x squared here and I have minus 4x squared here. This is going to give me minus 3x squared. I have 20x minus 20x, 104 plus 104. That's what I have. Now, because I have to get the minimum distance, this is the expression for my distance formula. But because I have to get the minimum distance, that's when I know that I will differentiate. So for minimum distance, for minimum distance, then I will have d dx of x4 minus 3x squared minus 20x plus 104. I must solve for x on this. Differentiate first and then solve for x in order to get the minimum value. Therefore, if I differentiate this, I would have 4x cubed, because when you differentiate, you take the exponent, you multiply it with the coefficient on in front, and then you subtract 1 from the exponent itself. For the next one, if I take 2 and multiply by minus 3, I would have minus 6x. 2 minus 1 is just going to be 1. So there's no need to write the 1 there. And then for the last one, I would have 1 for the exponent. 1 times minus 20 is going to be minus 20x to the exponent 1 minus 1. Any number to the exponent 1, any number to the exponent 0 is just 1. So this is going to be my differential for the whole thing. And then the next thing I have to do is to solve for x for this one. Now it's a cubic function. In order to solve this cubic function, I have to get a factor such that when I substitute the factor throughout here, I will get 0. You can even use a long division method if you want to solve this part, but otherwise I will factorize it. So if I put a factor, if I put a number that is going to be a factor of 20 throughout here, that's going to give me 0. That number is 2. Now, because that number is 2 and a positive 2, I will put it as x minus 2 here. And then I have to factorize the remaining of the whole entire thing here. Now, for me to get the first term, since I found the term to be minus 2, for me to get the first term here, for me to get 4x cubed, it means I have to multiply it by 4x squared. And for me to get minus 20, it means I have to multiply it by plus 10, the factors. But now, in order to determine the middle number, in order to get the middle number, I should ask myself, based on whatever I would get if I multiply minus 2 and 4, what value must I add that to in order to get 0x squared? Because you can see there was supposed to be x squared somewhere in the middle here. Since this is a polynomial, it should be x cubed, x squared, x, and then 1. So the value of x squared is 0. What must I add to minus 8x squared in order to get 0x squared? That would be plus 8. because positive 8, when I multiply it to that, is going to be plus 8x, I mean, because positive 8x, when I multiply it to that x, is going to be x squared, but then it's going to subtract with the x squared that I get from here in order to give me a 0 there. Meaning, my values of x are x is equals to 2, or whatever I will get from that value here. So if you try to factorize this part here, you will see that there are no roots for this one, even if you can use the quadratic function, because it has a square root of a negative number. Remember, for b squared minus 4ac, which is our discriminant, if I was to solve this, I would have that this is the same as 8 minus 4, a is 4, and c is 10. So as a result, this would give me minus 96, meaning I can't get the value of x here because we can't have a square root of a negative number from our quadratic function. Now, meaning the value of x is only minus 2 when we get the differential value. So for the minimum distance, it means the minimum distance is only at x is equals to 2. Now that you know where the minimum distance is, you take that value and you go to subtract. You take that value and you go substitute that value in your distance formula, such that our answer will then come from so in order to get our minimum distance, we take the 2 and then we substitute the 2 on our distance formula. So this is what we have. And then if you simplify this on your calculator, you will get that this is the same as 2 square root of 17, which is roughly 8.25 units. Meaning the distance from that point to the distance from the point on the graph to the point 10 and 2 that is further away from the graph is 8.25. That's the minimum distance. So far in this question, we have used 3 applications. First of all, we had to understand our quadratic function. Secondly, we have to understand the distance formula function, or rather the distance formula. And then third, we had to understand how to differentiate. So whenever you see minimum or maximum being mentioned on a question, you are more likely to differentiate in order to get whatever value in that moment. I'm Mr. Maimane. This is Simplified RSA. We are the guys who makes it looks easy. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us in all our social media platforms, and whenever you need to inquire about our private lessons, feel free to contact us on WhatsApp or send us an email. Here is our contact details here. At the end of the day, we are here for you. Please make sure you follow us in order to keep up with all the content that we're gonna put out there to help you achieve a better mark in your exam.